Hello, everyone. This is the Core Fore. Basically, we are a group of like-minded business owners and entrepreneurs who basically are, trying to help other businesses grow. So we're trying to do this on a weekly basis, where we're going to be giving out really kind of insider information on how to grow your business in 2025 and in the future. So basically, we have a ensemble of people. I am the marketing specialist. I'm an online marketing specialist. That's my background, and I've been doing it for almost 30 years, which is pretty insane. And next to me is Michael, who is the money man. I call him the money man because he's the one that can help companies get the financing, get the money that they need to grow their business or deal with debt or stuff that are holding back their businesses. So he's the money man. And then we have Virid. I'll let them each explain themselves a bit better than that. But we have Virid, who is kind of like the business coach, the business consultant, the one that takes a business from being at one stage and helps it grow to that next stage. Very important person that kind of is more of the person that kind of brings everything together in the real world. I'm the virtual world, she's real world. And then we got Tova, and she's all about business communication. She brings that, like, as I stumble on my words, she's the one that doesn't stumble on her words. See, that's how that works. How to make those, how to communicate within your company, how to communicate with your clients, how to bring that communication, those barriers within communication that might be holding your company back. Because a lot of the time, the things that hold companies back is the fact that they can't even get the message out. So she's the one that will kind of help businesses with that. So if you combined all of us, we basically give you a holistic, I hate that word, but holistic approach to business. And we give you all the different elements that you need to really get your business going. And we've all kind of have a pretty wide variety of businesses that we've helped over the years. Like personally, I've helped maybe about 3,000 businesses grow. So I've seen it all, done it all. And I feel like we all have that kind of knowledge that we can bring to the table. It's my phone ring. But today we're going to be kind of showing a little bit of our vulnerability. And what I mean by that is I'm going to get everyone to answer the following question. And the question is, how does AI impact your business? And I feel bad for everyone. Everyone's just sort of waiting. I can see that they're all like, ready to jump to answer these questions, but I'm going to answer it first. I'm sorry, I'm kind of holding you guys back. I want you guys to build up your excitement so you guys will give an awesome answer. I'm a big fan of the book, as I forget the name of the book, the sci-fi one where it's a restaurant at the end of the universe. There's like it was a series of books. And basically it was a sci-fi book where it was about understanding life, okay, but in a sci-fi setting. And I'll remember the name in a second. I don't know why I'm forgetting the name. But basically what it is there's a situation where they build a supercomputer, and they call this supercomputer Earth, okay? And at the end of the day, actually they build a first supercomputer, and basically they ask it, what is the meaning of life, okay? And the computer says, okay, give me 3 billion years, and I will give you the answer, okay? So 3 billion years pass, and they basically go to this computer and say, oh, what's the meaning of life? And the computer says 42. And they're like, what the heck does that mean? Like, what does that mean? And so they build a second supercomputer to find out what the question is, which leads to the answer of 42. So that way they can understand the meaning of life. Okay. Well, AI is kind of like that. You actually have to prompt it to basically answer the question that you're trying to give. And if you don't, like, in the way, like with SEO, which is what I do, a lot of SEO things, people think, oh, I don't need Alan anymore. I can just throw him aside because I can just do it myself. I just ask it to do whatever and it will do it. But what ends up happening is if you don't know what to ask, or if you don't know how to feed it what it needs, what ends up happening is it just gives you 42, and then you've got to build a supercomputer to find out what that means. Okay, so this is how I see AI impacting my business. That instead of being a tool that basically phases me out, right? It doesn't phase me out. It makes me uh, more capable of doing my job because I'm the one that can understand what is that question that leads to the answer 42. Okay, so I hope that kind of makes sense. I hope it's a very odd story, but hopefully it makes sense and it gives you understanding of how AI works and how it doesn't work. A lot of people really don't understand that it's not quite, going to solve all our problems. We have to sort of feed it and, give it that knowledge in order to do the things that we need it to do. It's good at doing stuff, but you have to tell it how to do it, and you have to know what you know in order to make it do what you need it to do. So, and that's why you still need those experts. And that's why I liked being an expert, because, the ones that are not so good at the job will fade out because they'll be replaced by AI. But the ones that are good and understand the questions will survive. So that's my answer. I'm going to ask each of my members now to see what kind of cool answers they can come up with. And we're going to start with Michael. Michael, how does AI impact your business? And what's your 42 answer? Okay.
Okay, so Michael Yazzie and I handle financing. So how does it affect my business? Well, if you're like me, I'm getting, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 different emails a day telling me how AI is going to help my business, how these companies can use AI to help my business. And it's all over the board. And I'm not even sure if they know what they're talking about other than using the keyword AI. Mm-hmm. So AI is definitely going to help my business down the road as soon as I figure out how it's best used for my business. How do I get to where I'm going, and where am I going? I'm trying to connect with the people that are going to be able to refer me clients. How's the best way for me to use AI to do it? And it's not always about the amount of money you're going to spend on AI. It's what value you're getting. So you may find somebody that's going to charge you $1,000 for their package, and another company wants $20,000. Well, you've got to investigate it, because that $20,000 one may be less expensive than the $1,000 one, because the $1,000 one may be worthless. So you need to investigate it. Now let's look at from the other side of how do you finance it? How are you going to determine how you're going to spend the money on it? Because you're very concerned that your competition is getting ahead of you with AI. What do you need AI for? How is it going to benefit your business? How are you going to grow? But where also are you going to get the money to pay these companies to do it for you? Because you can't do it yourself. You're not, it's not about writing a letter. It's about using AI to bring in more business to you. So you have to understand a little bit about it, but you also have to have confidence in the people you're doing business with and where you're going to get the money to pay it when things are tight. So what you have to do is bring one of us. We're experts in all different areas. Where are you going to find the savings in your business, or where can you use money in your business to grow it through AI? And that's really what you want to look at when you're looking at AI. How are you going to spend the money? How are you going to do it? Or what if you're in the AI business and you're going to clients and they're going to you and saying, I can't afford your service? Well, the first question I would ask them is, do you need help raising financing for your business? If they say yes, they're actually telling you the truth that they really don't have money. If they say no, they don't want to be introduced, they just don't want to do business with you. So stop wasting your time with them. But look at a company, investigate, ask questions. Get the other people to help you. Bring in a consultant to help determine whether it makes sense financially for you to spend the money. Again, it's not how much money you're spending, it's are you spending it wisely? And understanding AI is very difficult right now because it's coming from everywhere. Everybody says they're an expert, and most of the people have no idea what they're doing other than trying to sell something. They don't really understand. So ask the expert, understand what you're getting into, and you don't have to rush into it because AI is still very new. Thank you.
Okay. So here's a couple quick follow-up questions to that. Sorry, I have to put you on the spot a little bit more. You're behind you have a brick wall behind you. So I feel like this is like the firing squad kind of thing I have to do with you here. So I see, like, actually, your perspective on AI is very different than mine, and that's probably because we're in very different industries. Uh, do you think that there's a potential, and because you're a money man, to use AI, not necessarily like as a tool or anything, but use AI as a way to get investment? Say, hey, I have a business, and oh, because I say, oh, it has AI built into it, then I can sort of use that to either get people to invest in my company or to, to either there might be even grants that are available for people that use AI. There seems to be like just that hype around AI. Do you see that as being a part of the financial equation?
I would say that the chances of you being successful investing into a company that's promoting they have AI is probably pretty slim. Okay, because most of them aren't real. They're just looking for money, and they're using AI to solicit as many people as possible. So it's just the new form of a boiler room. So I wouldn't think that that's really going to be a way to raise money that people are going to get excited. Somebody wants to put money into AI investment, they're going to buy one of the big stocks that they read about every day. They're not going to generally put money into your business unless they have an interest in AI and they've looked at your business thoroughly. Then they're making an investment into your business who happens to just be AI. But they're not investing in AI, they're investing in your business because they like the business. So I think at the beginning, over the next number of years, most of the people that invest money over the internet into an AI business are going to lose their money. Now that's different. That's different than spending money on AI to improve your business. That's completely.
Yeah.
Somebody's looking to make a quick dollar on something over the internet, and you buy stuff over the internet, you're going to get what you deserve.
Well, I see sort of parallels to like the early 2000s when when the .com thing happened, where people would just say, "Oh, I have a website." Like that was like the thing to do back like late 90s, early 2000s, where just when you said you had a website, people would say, "Okay, here's $1 million. I don't know what it means that you have a website, but here's money. I'll invest in you." And we had the .com bubble soon after that because people were just throwing money at it and didn't understand.
I think it's going to be the same thing here. And really, what you should be concentrating on is spending money on AI for your business, not worrying about investing in something because you're a small business generally, and all your money should be going into running your own business. And where can you best put the marketing dollars? And if AI is for you, investigate it and put your money there. If it's TikTok, if it's other social media, then you're still getting consulting from other people that are experts to direct you there. Just like when people come to you, Alan, for SEO information, they know they're coming to an expert, and that's where they're going to spend the money. They want to spend the money with the expert and to get the best bang for the dollar. And it's not going to the person that charges the least amount. It's the person that knows the most. That's where you're going to get your best value back.
And I think that's very true with AI, that what we'll have is sort of that expert being even more valuable as an asset, where people like the problem with this is just my complaint about AI, and I'm sure people watching will be like, oh, he doesn't know AI because he's like so against AI. But actually, I see AI from a very technical side. And one of the things that I see with AI is it's sort of garbage in, garbage out. And so whatever you give it, if you don't understand what you're doing, if you're not an expert yourself, what ends up happening is it's just garbage in and then you
Mhm.
get garbage out. And it's really that in the future, experts are going to be leveraged more to be that not garbage in and not garbage out kind of result, where you get that knowledgeable person to kind of feed it what you need in order to get the proper output. And I think that's how I think it might even impact your business, that you might find that, maybe you don't use AI now, but you'll be using, I think you might be using it in the future where you're going to be that expert that's feeding it.
Oh, well, I believe that. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. I mean, you need to understand it so that you can best value it for your business. And going to an expert is going to help you, and it's going to be less expensive if you go to the expert at the beginning than if you have to find the expert down the road after you spent all your money and it didn't work out. And
Mm-hmm.
knowledge is everything, and there's nothing wrong with asking somebody for help and going to that expert to help you. Just like you would go
Mm-hmm.
to a lawyer if you have a legal problem, or an accountant for an accounting problem, or a doctor for a medical problem. You're going to a business consultant, you're going to a business expert to help you in a specific area that they're the expert in. And
Mm-hmm.
that's going to save you money, because you're not going to throw away money on something that doesn't work, because you can't understand everything. You understand your business, but you can't understand all the everything else about your business. That's why you do have a lawyer. That's why you do have an accountant. You're
Mm-hmm.
concentrating on your business. They concentrate on what they do. And that's
Mm-hmm.
about picking the best of the lot. And that's going to save you money and give you a better result.
Very good. So, okay, now I got to put a new person on the hot seat. Verid, how does AI impact your business?
So, I think first we have to identify what AI is. A lot of people think of AI as just chat GPT and it will, help you write things, and it will help you create things. And I think, we've put so much emphasis on that and how it can, quote unquote, like simplify the way that you do things and save you time and all of that. But I think there are so many good points in what you both said, in the fact that it is, first of all, I believe it is in its infancy still, even though it's evolved. But we started with AI long before this. If you think about, answering machines and voicemail and ATMs, like all of those things are AI. We just didn't have that terminology. We didn't label it as such. But it is AI. It is artificial intelligence. It is something that's helping us. It is something that's making our lives a little bit simpler and better and more efficient. But when we look at AI in the way that it works for us, we have to, like you said, Alan, we have to think about who's feeding it the information, because all AI is something being regurgitated. And the way that, ChatGPT and other ones are using it is they're basically collecting the information from their sources that they're exposed to. So whether they're going to, websites, Google, or wherever else, that people are feeding it information, the best AI is the ones that people create independently, because they're controlling the information that's in it. So if you have open source AI, which is basically anyone feeding it information, you're not sure of the relevance of the information or even the credibility, and the reliability on it is not the same. So I think for me in my business is establishing where people get their information from and how they're using it. And like you said, in the prompting of the questioning, it's, the way that you ask it something is it's exactly how it's going to give you back the information. But if you don't know how to ask the right questions, if you don't know what information you're even looking for, then how are you possibly going to be able to get the right information to put out or to use for your own business? And that's where somebody like me comes in, is to guide you through that, to be that, I always say I'm the safeguard in those gutters, when you go bowling, like I'm not going to let you go there. So we've been there and done that. We see the perils, we see the dangers, we see the pitfalls, we see the mistakes people make, and we can save a lot of people a lot of money and a lot of time. So for me in my business, for instance, a lot of people, like Michael said, and I'm sure all of you and all the people listening today or watching, that they do get bombarded with all kinds of AI offers, and not all AI is created equal. So for me, it's a matter of using the right type of AI, the right type of way of using it. So if I'm creating offers, if I'm creating content, I'm not just going to take a prompt and say, okay, create a presentation for me on emotional intelligence, for instance, because it's going to pull things from places where I'm not even sure who's writing it. I don't want to plagiarize anything. I don't want to use anything that's not mine. And at the end of the day, when I teach authenticity, it's about why can't I create my own material? Why can't I have my own thought leadership? Why can't I come up with new methodologies? Like that's what I want to do. And that's what I want to inspire and teach others how to do is don't rely on AI to create content for you. Leverage it to maybe enhance the content, maybe make it look pretty, all these kinds of things, but don't let it like create a business for you basically, because it's not a business in a box. What you get from AI can get you in a lot of trouble. So you need to really be careful about how you use it. And for my business, I'm very careful in what I allow in and how I'm able to interpret that and how I can put it back out. And I think leading by example, we know that, we have to use our own expertise to be able to decipher what's real and what's not, what's true and what's not, and how we can help others do the same thing. So AI, like I said, is still in that infancy stage, even though it's been around for a long time now. It's just got a lot more spotlights on it and a lot more attention. It ain't going anywhere, but we need to make sure that it's not leading us down a path that's going to get us in trouble, and that we know how to leverage it properly. But when you use things like Calendly and Grammarly and all that kind of stuff, of course it can help you, but it can also, when there's technical difficulties, it can also mess up your entire day or your entire cycle, right? So you have to make sure you know how to look out for those pitfalls that I was mentioning earlier. Is how do I stop things from happening and before they happen? And if they do happen, then how do I move on, fix it and move on rather quickly? Um, because AI can be a very dark place if you don't know how to use it properly. You can use AI for good and you can use it for not good. And that that whole differentiation is really up to the person using it. And what do we like, what's the outcome, what are your goals, what do you want to accomplish with AI? And I think that will never replace the expert, the human being. As Michael was saying, we and you were saying, Alan, we are the experts. We know what we're doing, we know, we've been there, done that, and we're leading others to do the same thing. And we're always keeping up with the technology advancements. So we're aware of what's going on behind the scenes. We are connected to a whole bunch of experts that also feed us information and tell us what they're experiencing. So this is why we're able to stay on top of it. But for people who don't have us as their advisory group, as their steering committee, they may not have access to that information. And so they may rely on AI that may harm them more than help them, if that makes so total sense.
Yeah, no, it's good. One thing that I sort of was thinking about as you're saying all this, and you
Mhm.
kept on like you it was part of what you were saying, is the idea that my concern, and this is something probably you've probably already seen, is that people have a tendency of being a little lazy, and they say, okay, so you talked about emotional intelligence, like and what ends up happening, and I can see this happening where like people claim to be experts, claim to be something which they're not, and they say, okay, I'll just get ChatGPT to give me that that thing to make me look like I have the knowledge about whatever it is that I'm talking about, and they didn't create it themselves. So there is no authenticity behind it. And I think in a way, what might happen, and you can kind of address this even more, is people will crave something that seems human, even more so that they like it's sort of like what happens on YouTube and with influencers. Like we trust those people because they are the ones that are the experts. They know, they seem to know it more than anybody else, and we go to them. When it becomes like just a like all the same, where it's like you just put in the thing into chat and then you get this answer and therefore it's but it just seems like like I don't know, it just seems like not authentic, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. Um,
Yeah. I
yeah.
think what you're trying to say, and I hear this phrase thrown around a lot, is the sea of sameness. And
Mhm.
we're drowning in it because everyone is trying to be something. And like you said, they're going to ChatGPT or whatever else AI tool that they're using, whatever resource, and they're saying, okay, make me look like an expert in this. And it's great when you have it out, as a standalone product or feature. And you're just putting it out there, whether you're creating a video or it's an article or, a downloadable thing. But once you get talking, once you have to really be like we are now, you're on the hot seat,
Mhm.
you're live, you're in front of a client or you're in front of a potential client, right? A prospect, or you're being interviewed on a podcast or wherever you are, you're speaking to someone on the street and they come up with a question and you are like a deer in headlights. Why?
Yeah,
Because
you gotta wait, just one moment. I gotta check it.
because
What's the
why? Yeah,
answer?
because why? Because you're not authentic and you're not an
Yeah,
expert. Because experts, we live and breathe this stuff. You can
yeah.
ask us these questions in our sleep, and we'll be able to have a logical, methodical answer that makes sense, that applies, that's relatable, that is, something that's relevant to what you're talking about. And we don't have to falter. We don't have to be with the let me look it up or let me research
Mhm.
or whatever. We can come up, boom, this is the answer that you're looking for. Or if we don't, we can say, well, in my experience, this and this and this. However, let me look into it a little bit deeper to get you what you actually need. Um, but when you're relying on ChatGPT or any other thing to create that, illusion of expertise or to make you look like you're a contender in this area, right?
Mhm.
That's always like that mask will always come off at some point. So I really caution people not to do that. Because if
Mhm.
you're just, if you want to have an ebook that you want to sell on Amazon, Amazon doesn't even take a lot of stuff because they know that you are not stealing it, because you can even buy like PLR stuff, that's legit,
Mhm.
but you didn't write it. So when you're going and you're getting PLR content, you need to repurpose that. You can't just take it as is face value, because
Mhm.
chances of other people doing the same thing are very high. And so if anyone wants to challenge what you're putting out there, they can go and they can research and they can see it's not your own, even though you have the license and you have the rights to be able to use it. It's not meant for people to just take that and paste it on whatever it is that they're doing. It's used more as a resource that you can elaborate on. And if you're a true expert, you can elaborate on any one of these things. And when you're looking at already created content, also you don't know who created that. You don't know what their credentials are, right? So yeah, I think it's really important to just stick to what you know best and to continue improving in your area, in your field, in your industry, and make yourself that go-to expert. What do we do before AI or before the internet? Like we had to be experts because we were experts. Now anybody can call themselves a coach or a consultant or whatever, and a
Mhm.
lot of them don't know what they're doing. I'm not knocking everyone, but there are many
Mhm.
that don't know what they're doing. And even when they get, licensed, or if they're I don't know, it's certified, right? Like I happen to be certified in different things, but not every certification is legitimate. Not everyone, I mean, if you pay enough money, anyone can give you anything, right? Um, but it's really important to use it in the right way, and it's really important also not to take something that's out there and just copy it verbatim, word for word, and plagiarize, because not only can you get yourself in legal trouble, but that will kill your career.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, I see this as something that's going to become more and more of an issue, actually. One of the things that I always thought was interesting with just with the internet itself, just the basic internet. was that we are living in a day where, in theory, you have access to all the world's knowledge. Everything that ever has been thought of, you can probably Google it or get that information. And the weird thing is, when I talk to people, I'm always shocked by how clueless they are in terms of they have all this knowledge that they could access, but because they don't have it kind of intrinsically inside themselves, they're just like, oh well, give me a sec, I'll Google that. You know, they rely too much on it. It's almost like a crutch.
Right.
And I think AI could become the same thing, where people like all of a sudden, they're like, oh, I can be an expert on anything because I'll just check the AI and it'll tell me what I need to know. And they never actually learn it or make it part of themselves. And I really see that as a problem in the future.
Yeah.
So with that said, I'm not sure how I'm going to segue this, but I guess part of the thing is that communication part that you mentioned, that when you're actually in that business meeting and you're talking to that person, that's when they can see, okay, does he actually know this or not? So kind of segues into Toba. So Toba, how does AI impact your business? How does it impact the communication side of things?
This is funny that you asked this, because when I thought AI, or artificial intelligence, was in its infancy, I was asked to be part of a panel against and for, two against. And I love learning about the new, latest and greatest things. So I researched it because I had 2 weeks to research what I was going to say and what I was going to do. So I went to my friend Google and I said, hey, Google, what is this artificial intelligence? When was the first time we actually saw it? And IBM actually did this in 1941 to 1956, this little company, IBM. And they had the IBM 702, which was the first artificial intelligence machine that they were going to bring into the world. Now, throughout the decades, there was this thing called the internet that was coming. People would say World Wide Web. Now we know it's www, and you don't even have to put that in when you put a website. But the funny thing about this is they had this great cool thing that was going to be the internet. It was going to save us time. You were going to do emails, and instead of sending, snail mail, a letter, it was going to save us lots of time. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, I find that I'm spending a lot of time doing emails and capturing what I need to say. Now, artificial intelligence is also on your smartphone. If you have any smart devices in your home, that is also AI. It's not just the chat GPTs. And Alan, I heard that you can actually create a website in 20 minutes using AI. So because I've known you a long time, I decided to create this great website. Guess what? It is terrible. It doesn't work. And Michael, I know you're the money guy. So I thought, okay, I'm going to research this. How can it help me make more money? Well, it doesn't. I need to talk to you, Michael. I need to talk to you, Alan. And Vered, your emotional intelligence and all your coaching, yes, I could get a degree in something or something else, but it's all made up. So yes, the authenticity, it's not. But I like to call her Iris. Her name backwards is SIRI. But if I say anything, she's going to speak out as I talk. So I have to be very careful because I am an Apple person. I know there are not Apple people in the room, but I do like Apple. I have started with the old BlackBerry. Yes, I was one of the first people to have a BlackBerry until it crashed on me. For 3 days, it crashed. And what did BlackBerry offer me? A game for me and my kids who I couldn't reach for 3 days. Then I went to the Samsungs and the Androids. I've tried them all because I love adopting and adapting to new things. I love the change. So I've gone in circles around how this can help in business. If I wanted to create a picture, I'm not an artist at all. I can go to Ideogram. It's a new thing. It's an AI type of thing. And if I wanted to create a cool picture, I could put something in. And the picture may come out lovely if I put the right codes or right words in. But the words come out in blah, blah, and I don't know what blah, blah, blah means. So I created a picture for myself that said my name on it. Now, the first time it came up, some of the letters were, I don't know what language it was, but it wasn't the language that I recognize. And I understand that AI can help us. It can also hinder us. So again, going back to what Alan said at the beginning, you have to be able to know what you're doing. It can be a tool in your toolbox. Absolutely. It can save you time. So if Alan really wanted to remember the name of that movie, he could put into AI some of the words, the key words, and maybe the name of that movie would pop up.
I Googled it. It's actually a book called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
And I read there's a Hitchhiker's Guide to other things too, which I read when I was in high school. But Google is part of AI too. It's how we use this. And again, I go back to our toolbox, and your toolbox can be any color you want it to be. It can be as big or as small as you want. And it's what you put in it. That's how it will help you. I believe that we all have a voice within us that needs to be heard. That's my go-to. I love the idea of The Little Engine That Could. It's a kid's book from when I was a little girl, and it resonates with me. And I have songs in my head that I really love to sing when I'm in a bad mood or an unhappy mood, and I need to motivate myself within. I go to those songs that really resonate with me. Now, I have a special claim to fame. I am a 6-time cancer survivor. I don't want anyone to ever get close to me, and nobody should beat me and win this prize, because it's not a prize. I remember one of the doctors telling me, "You have the best cancer ever." No, I don't. I never have. I never will. And I have a dedication. I have a perseverance. AI can be that. But again, sometimes you can be stuck on what it's doing and how you're doing it and not knowing what the next step is. You have to have an idea in your head. If you are totally blocked, maybe that will help you. But we all can help you get to your biggest toolbox ever. We have all the tools that you need every step of the way. Now, maybe it's something you're not doing in business. We can help you with that too. It's not just about business. We believe that nonprofits should be for profit too. And I said that very carefully because a lot of not-for-profits think that you have to lose money. You don't. And I'm sure Michael will agree with me. Not-for-profits have a board and they can make money. Corporations can make money. But it's about sometimes listening and hearing and not just doing without thought and follow through. It's about having a focus. Somebody told me earlier today, having your focus and knowing what your focus is. If you don't have your focus and you're just throwing with your eyes blinded or eyes covered and throwing darts in the wind, not the dartboard, or being spun around in a dark room and having a blindfold on and then throwing darts, you're never going to get that bullseye. You need to know exactly what you want. And yes, there'll be forks in the road, but knowing the right path for you in business, personally, and not veering. Sometimes that shiny object you'll say, yes, oh, look at that. There's a movie called Up. Squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. You need to have that laser focus. Know exactly what it is you want to do, what your strengths are, not your weaknesses. And when I say weaknesses, you may say, oh, I'm just terrible at money. I don't even know. Well, you have to use money on a day-to-day basis. So maybe you need to talk to Michael Yasny, the money man, and how to stay in your lane and how to stay straight and not veer out. With Vered, she can help you with so many things. She doesn't like to mention it, but she's actually has a doctorate, and she's Dr. Vered Lerner. So she can actually help you with a lot more things that she's very humble. And Alan, the SEO guru, he has spoken so many times. He's actually has helped lots of people over the decades on how to help them in business and help them personally. We all are the Core Fore. And the reason we came together is to help you. We love you. We want to help you and show us that you can help us. What do I mean by that? You can reach out to us. You can say, hey, Core Fore group, how is it that you can help us consult? Maybe they can help, you can help us. Maybe you have that great idea. And maybe you're just starting out in business, not just been in business for a long time and stagnant, but maybe you want to restart or you want to jumpstart your business. We are here to help you with that too. Alan, thank you for getting us all together, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Okay. So I like to do the follow-up questions, and I always torture my guests. I don't know why I do that, but so one of the things I'm curious about, kind of circling it back to more of the AI side, is you're dealing with a lot of, I know you're a Toastmaster, you deal with real world conversation. And this kind of goes back to what Vered was saying, where when you're in the real world, you cannot rely on some device or something to give you the answer. How do you see that playing out with that business communication? How do you see it playing out with where people want to use the AI because they become dependent on it in the real world? Like how do you see that kind of dynamic playing out?
Thank you that's a great question. So when I have crafted email, craft brief speech, or even a presentation, I need to start somewhere. Can AI help me? Maybe yes. It can give me some ideas of maybe the great title, using some words or some prompts that I had. Maybe it's something I didn't think of. Or maybe I can put in the words I want and it can make it more clear. Vera talked about Grammarly. Grammarly, maybe I have instead of a colon, I should have just a comma. It can help me with that. So these are some of the tools with AI. But if you're not, again, your authentic self, like you all talked about, you have to be authentic, because if I'm putting in information into AI, somebody else can use my AI information that I put in. The prompts I put in, somebody could steal that. And I had actually a case where this happened. I actually created a speech and I put it up on the internet. And somebody regurgitated and actually happened to speak to me about this. And I said, wait, no, you can't do that. So when I'm saying AI is a tool, yes, it's a tool. It may not be a big tool. It could be a big tool, but you need to be able to craft your own ideas and know that if it's out there, it could be used again. I actually had a presentation I did. I created this thing when I was a teenager, and I'm not going to tell you what it was, but it was, I like to, there's a thing called the color system where we all are certain colors, gold and orange. And every day of the week, I could be a different color. And I figured out how to break this whole chain. So I created a new program. Somebody wrote a book and they said they did it. And I have copies of when I did it when I was a teenager. So again, it's not AI, but it's how you're plagiarized. So not only can you plagiarize others, and imagine if your children are using it in school, they could be kicked out of university if they're being they're plagiarized. And there are tools actually they can use to find if you're using
AI that detects AI.
Exactly.
It's like a little war that's happening between the various AIs. Yeah.
So it can be in your back pocket as a tool to maybe, one of the things we teach is how to talk on your feet. So having like a table topics type thing, how to think about some random subject. And if I have to do something in 5 minutes, maybe I come up with some subject headings for the month of May, the month of April, the month of December. So talking to break the ice with people. Maybe that's where but it's out there once we use it. But AI, it's been around for a long time. We know that it's going to change. What we know today can be different tomorrow. And everybody else wants us to jump on their bandwagon and use their special brand of it. But you can see when you type a message, ChatGPT has all these little asterisk stars and these hyphens and all these other things, that the numbers and the bullet points they do. Gemini has its own thing, Copilot, and I'm naming several, but each of them basically are the same thing. So can it help us in business? Yes, if you know the direction. So if you have a compass, I know I'm talking old school, but if you have a compass and you have one on your phone too, and you say, where's true north? Did you know that you can actually look at the stars and the moon at night and it will tell you where true north is?
Sure.
But if you have a magnet, your true north actually becomes a different degrees. So it's using the tools that you have to guide you in the right way. And we're here to help you. So can it help us in writing? Sure. Can it help you in presentations? Sure. Can it help you create pictures? Absolutely. But also it can be a huge hindrance. And I've tried these things. I've sampled them and wanted to create that fun website in 20 minutes. It doesn't take 20 minutes. And you have to know all that, have the knowledge. So if you want the information, you need to know how to do it properly. Unless you're a coder, unless you're an engineer, then you've probably done this before. But it is a help, but it's also a hindrance.
But also, if I can just jump in, what you were just saying, Tova, also, I think it's really important to understand that if you don't know what to ask it and how to ask it, you're going to get a totally wrong answer or wrong advice.
Exactly.
So in order to start somewhere, you need to know what to feed it. And this is where you need an expert to help you along the way. And it doesn't mean you have to always use an expert, but at least to get the foundational pieces in place. Even when you were saying, you created a website, of course, it's more than 20 minutes. And of course, it's going to suck because it doesn't really know what to do for you because you're not a website designer. You're not a coder.
No.
You're not a copywriter. So what information can you possibly give AI to be able to spit out this perfect website that you wanted to build for you? I mean, if it was that easy, everybody would be using it, and then we wouldn't need people like Alan and website designers and copywriters and whatever. Yes, it can be used to help along the way. Yes, it can be used to save a little bit of time. But it is not going to help you in the way that you need to be helped if you don't know what you're looking for. So it's kind of like a catch-22 or the egg come before the chicken or, whatever. Like you can't use something when you don't know how to use it properly and you're not even sure what it's capable of. And AI is quite capable of messing a lot of things up. So...
And further to that, sorry, there is a show. It's called Little Shop of Horrors. It's musical, and feed me, and this big plant that starts like this size becomes huge because we don't know what it's being fed, and it takes over. It ends up eating the person. I'm sorry, I told the end, but basically it's that. So you don't want to be eaten. You don't want to have that authenticity taken from you. You don't want to put something in that you don't know what's coming out. So that's part of it.
Well, so one of the things that I see definitely, and just to further Vered's point, is that if you use AI, you create whatever you create, you might even like the result. But if you're not an expert or you don't even know, and then you pass that to somebody that might know a little bit more, and I've seen this happen where I tested it out. I said, hey, generate a little ebook on SEO. And I actually saw some of my own stuff, just like you were talking about, Tova, that some of the old stuff that you create is in there somewhere, where that stuff is out of date. If, I wrote an article about Ask Jeeves. Well, Ask Jeeves is like, who uses Ask Jeeves anymore? It's like 20-year-old things. But it doesn't have that perspective that this is old content. This is stuff that's no longer relevant. It doesn't understand the relevancy that we understand. And if you're not an expert and you hand it off, you might say, okay, well, it looks legit. It looks like it says what it needs to say. But then when you actually give it to somebody, they're going to be like, well, this is not quite right. There's something weird here. Obviously you don't know what you're talking about and you've just used ChatGPT to give you an answer. And I've seen this happen more and more where I can see them using it in emails and to respond to emails. And first of all, whenever I see it, I'm like, oh, that's a really interesting word choice. Oh, So already I feel like I'm not dealing with a person anymore, even though I know it was sent by a person. And the other thing is I feel like they're not maybe as skillful as I thought they were. And so it actually works against their credibility on those two major levels.
Yeah, and
Um,
it doesn't just happen, by the way, with people that you're working with in terms of clients or, collaborators or whatever. But if you are, so a lot of what I do is also coaching people in career. But if you're working for a company and they hired you based on your level of expertise, your knowledge, your all of that, if you
mhm,
start using AI to be able to do your job and they find out, you're going to get fired. And it's not something that is going to be, sorry, I just have some noise in the background. It's not something that is going to be seen first, like the first time you do it or the second time you do it, but eventually it will trickle in and they're going to start to question, where did you get this information from? What are your sources, right? What
mhm,
did you mean when you said this? And if you don't know and you're just using the AI, you're not going to have any of those answers because you don't know what sources AI is using. You don't know what they're talking about. You can't elaborate on the subject and you don't even know if it's true. So,
mhm.
Tova was saying that you can get, kicked out of university for doing it. I've seen it happen even in high school where kids are being, are plagiarizing and they're being told, no, you can't submit this. You're going to lose your credit. Um,
Mhm.
so we're relying so much on AI when we doubt ourselves and we don't want to say that we don't know what we don't know. We're going to AI for the answers and to make us look better. But in fact, it makes us look stupider.
Yeah.
Or more stupid. Stupider is not a word. But you know what I mean? Like the human element
It's
always needs.
gooder too.
It's gooder
Good
too.
too.
Yeah, it's super good, as I like to say. I think, we do need to remember that we are people, we are human. We will make mistakes, of course, but what's ours is ours, and when we create, we want to protect. So just like we want to protect our things, other people want to protect their things, and it's okay to use it as references or to even use it as a baseline and elaborate on it, expand on it, come up with our own different, styles and ways of bringing it about, but don't just steal someone else's idea and someone else's work because they've worked so hard, so many years, so much thought has gone into what they're doing. And then here you are just taking, their work and slapping your name on it and saying, here, look what I created, when you have
Mhm.
no clue how you would even have even started to create something like that.
Well, it's also the shortcut part of this. So
It
if
is.
you want the shortcuts, then you're not going to do well in business because you're going to take shortcuts and you're not going to have the quality product that you want. I mean, if you don't want quality, maybe that's the way to go to.
Well,
Exactly.
it kind of reminds me of something that happened to me as a kid. One day we had a substitute math teacher, and he put some just fairly basic calculation onto the board where we just had to add up a bunch of 4-digit numbers. Just it was like 20 or 30 numbers that we had to add up. Okay, so just a big long thing. And he said, do it. You here's the calculator. There was only one calculator that he allowed us to use. There was just this one calculator, and he said, use the calculator and then do it on your own. Okay, so everyone did it on their own, and we all got the same answer. Okay, when we did it on our own. But when we put it into the calculator, we got a different answer. So we're like, maybe what did where did we make a mistake? And we would check our answers again, and we kept on getting the same answer. But the calculator, when we put it into the calculator, got a different answer. So we're like, the answer is whatever the calculator said. Okay? Because we didn't trust ourselves, we trusted the calculator. And then the teacher said, well, you know what? That calculator is broken. Okay. And it was a real lesson that, hey, don't rely on this thing that you're thinking is somehow smarter than you. Sometimes if you have it in yourself, you're better off. And I think that's a lesson that I think people can really going forward is a big thing with AI, that we should rely on ourselves more and have it more intrinsically part of us as well, the knowledge. Um,
And I think it's a great place to end, actually, is to remind people of their own genius. and believe in themselves and not rely on AI to artificially make them smart. I think we all have really great things within us, and we have expertise within us. Anybody out there has a lot to offer to this world. And yes, they can use AI maybe to tweak it and to make it look and sound a little bit more, elaborate, but rely on your own internal information and guide yourself that way, and just kind of use the tools, but don't let them define you, and don't replace your knowledge, your intelligence with something that's artificial, right?
Sure.
I think sometimes natural is better.
That's good. That's a good way to end it. Okay, so I want to thank you guys all for hanging out for the last almost hour.
Yeah.
And I always like to end these things with next week's question. Next week's, how am I gonna stump you guys and kind of pull out some knowledge from you guys next week? And one of the things that I've been dealing with, and this is something that I deal with almost on a daily basis. I consider myself not an SEO specialist. I consider myself a firefighter. And the reason I consider myself a firefighter is my clients go around lighting their businesses on fire. And they do the dumbest things. They destroy their businesses for whatever reason. And I have to be the guy that comes in and puts that fire out, figures out how to save them from themselves. And so I kind of want to, basically I just have to hose them down, hope for the best, and save their businesses. So that's going to be the question for next week is, what are the biggest fires that you had to put out with your clients? And how did you go about doing that? So I'd love to hear those stories. And that's going to be next week's question. So we're all going to put on our firefighter hats next week. And it'll be a great conversation. So I look forward to that.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Michael and Vered.
Thanks everyone for watching. And I hope you enjoyed the video. Bye for now. Oops, wait.